It says here to thank you for the warm introduction, but you know what? This minister has introduced me before, and I was going to actually start off this morning by saying that it is not an unusual affair for the Premier and myself, the minister and myself. The minister and I were in Scarborough announcing a wonderful new dialysis clinic for people who badly need that in Scarborough. The Premier and I were announcing a week or so ago help for transit fares. And what that says is the best of what it is we're trying to do, because in the end, our calling card, our calling card is about the sort of humane, livable, fair, caring society that we're building here. And that's a joint enterprise that we have to work on together. We can't do it separately and apart from one another. And so that's why we're together so often, to be announcing these things that we're working on together. And nothing would surpass this hospital that we're here celebrating the opening of today. And I want to just begin by offering, as others have done, my deep gratitude to all of those involved, to Joanne and her team, to the board, to the staff, including the professional staff, but all of the staff, because there's a lot of different professions and skill sets that are resident inside this building, to the volunteers, of whom we met many already this morning, and as has been mentioned, the clients. I mean, we had the chance. You talk about something that inspires you. It inspires you to see professional and other people helping others, but to hear people who themselves have been inspired by what they experienced here this morning, which we had a chance to do even in 30 minutes, is something that's quite remarkable. And the resilience and the determination and the courage of those people is something that's quite remarkable. The Premier mentioned a shared mutual friend that we had by the name of Doug Bunnell, and it's funny because we didn't even know until we chatted about it inside that we were both going to mention him this morning, and I'd planned to do so as well. And simply to say this, that he had the good fortune to be cared for by many friends. And it's hard to know whether the medical advances that have happened since he passed away at a very young age. We were very close friends in the political process when we were both, before college even, before we were both college students. And it's hard to know if the medical advances would have made a difference to him. But and he was lucky enough to be surrounded by many friends, but there are an awful lot of people who, in the absence of a place like this, are alone. And they're alone even to the extent that they haven't even told their loved ones of what they're experiencing in terms of their illness. I can't imagine being that alone. And this place, you can see it when you're in here this morning. We saw people upstairs having breakfast together. We're told that the people who come in by the day come here and have lunch together. And that is really, I think, the magic of this place. Yes, there's going to be excellent medical care provided here, but it's also that people can be brought together in a non-stigmatized, non-judgmental environment, and be cared for and care for each other, and draw strength and inspiration from each other. And so the care has always been magnificent here. I moved in as a neighbor at Rogers when I worked there a number of years ago, and Jamie Watt, as I recall, brought over some people, and he wasn't coming to borrow a cup of sugar, I assure you. But he came by, and Casey House was, of course, in the older building down the street that's now gone, and this building was derelict. I mean, it was an eyesore, as you might remember, an eyesore in the sense that it hadn't been cared for. And yet Casey House was doing its job then. I remember going to have my very first tour, and I saw the candle in the window, and I had walked by many times and didn't know what that was, why it sometimes was lit and sometimes it wasn't. And I learned that from the tour, and I saw the care, the humane kind of care that was provided for inside that building. That hasn't changed at all, of course, and now they're just in a state-of-the-art building, and a state-of-the-art building, I should point out, that was done with the utmost of respect for heritage. And it proves, for once and for all, and I commend my colleague, Councillor Kristen Wong-Tam, because she's had a keen interest in this and made sure the city supported this, that it is possible. It is possible. Not only is it possible, it's necessary that we should develop state-of-the-art facilities within the context of heritage, so that we're doing that again in the cause of building a livable city going forward. Among the 27,000 people living with HIV in Ontario, 2/3 of them live in the city of Toronto. And so that is why institutions like this, and I hate even to call it an institution, that is why places, homes like this are needed to provide continued support to those people. This is a place that embodies the true spirit of this city. That is what our calling card is when we go talk about Toronto. We can talk about all the statistics, but in the end, with all the different competitions we're in and things we're out trying to sell to people, it's our way of life here that is the most important thing we have to sell. And that is why I think the Premier and myself, the Minister, the Councillor, spend so much of our time trying to preserve and enhance that way of life, because that's our ultimate calling card and our ultimate ability to look ourselves in the mirror in the morning and know that we're living as Canadians and Torontonians would want to live. And so I just want to again say thank you to all the people that have helped to make this possible. All the donors, all the sponsors, everybody, and to say that this place, this home, this house will have my full support going forward. I know that of the Councillor and the entire City Council of Toronto, and anything that you want to do to continue with this most important, humane and challenging work, because the challenge remains. We're making great progress, but there's much to be done. Thank you very much.